Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
So I'll start. I'll just say good evening to all of you. I'm Amy Skillman, and I am the director of the MA in Cultural Sustainability at Goucher College. And I want to welcome you all to tonight's conversation about why cultural sustainability matters. So before we begin, okay, see, before we begin, I just have some quick reminders that I want to share with you all. First of all, closed captioning is available by clicking the CC button at the bottom of your screen. We are recording, so if you prefer, if you prefer to not be on the recording, then just put your video on mute or turn off your video. And I suggest you keep your microphone on mute and maybe your setting on speaker view until we are able to open it up for conversation with everybody. We really want this to be a conversation. But first, we're going to begin with an overview of the program and then some brief remarks. We have an alumnae with us, and we have a faculty member with us, and we have the founder of the program with us. So we'll open it up for questions. In the meantime, please use the chat function to put your name, enter your name, maybe where you're from. Feel free to say something about what drew you to this conversation tonight, what intrigues you about the Max program. And if you have if questions come up for you throughout our presentation, my presentation in particular, and then the conversation, just feel free to please type them in the chat. And Taylor, who is monitoring the chat, will kind of aggregate them. So I do want to just say that if you missed, this is the last of our series of webinars for this semester. And we've been focusing on story and narrative as tools for cultural sustainability. We put them up on our YouTube channel. So if you're interested in seeing some of our former webinars, you can access our YouTube channel. It's at Cultural Sustainability Goucher. And Taylor can probably put the link in the chat for you if you want to grab that and save it. I think Taylor will also put the link in the chat that'll take you directly to the website for our graduate program. And speaking of Taylor, I would be remiss if I didn't introduce you to her. Taylor Seitzinger is our graduate student admissions counselor, and she's someone very important for you all to know. If you're interested in our graduate program, she is the person that can walk you through any questions you have about the admissions process. So our agenda for tonight is, as I said, a quick overview of the Max program, and then we'll have a conversation with a faculty member, an alumna, oops, that should be alumnae, and our founder, Rory Turner, and I'll introduce all of them in a minute. And then we'll open it up for your questions. So just really quickly, this I think it summarizes the mission of our program, that we offer a competitive edge for emerging cultural leaders, people who are working in their communities to advocate for cultural sustainability and for change. Many of these folks are seeking ways to collaborate innovatively with communities in a world really largely where cultural equity is threatened. And so a lot of our conversations are around how do we address and face those forces that are threatening the sustainability of communities. And our students explore new models for leadership so I'll talk a little bit more about this, but leadership that really foregrounds community well-being and empowers communities really to shape their own futures. So first, I want to start with the numbers just very quickly. You can complete this MAX program in as little as 2 years. Many people do it in 2.5, and some even do it in 3. You actually have 5 years to complete it, and some have even used that full 5 years. The point there being that it's really flexible and we want it to fit your schedule. So people that are working full-time and raising families maybe can't take as many courses at the same time as somebody else. So so we value that flexibility, and we work with you as a student to design an academic plan that really meets your needs. It's currently 42 credits to complete the program. Of those, 21 credits are required courses. So things like Introduction to Cultural Sustainability and Cultural Policy, Cultural Partnerships, and 2 of our research methods courses, and then your final capstone. But the remaining 21 credits are absorbed by elective courses that you can take to kind of design your way or customize your education and your way through the program, and management courses that we believe are really important because they kind of give you that kind of competitive edge in the workforce if you come out of the program with some management skills already under your belt. And then the last time we polled our alums, 87 or 88% of them said that they were actually working in careers that are related to their degree. And that even those that weren't talk about the fact that the program has given them the skills and the principles, I think, for working more effectively in their jobs. And I have a slide in a little bit that talks about the kinds of careers that our students get into. So, oops, I went too fast. So a little bit of so when we're gonna send this slide deck to you, and if you open it up in PowerPoint mode, these links will take you all directly to the various pages on our website, but you can easily find these pages on our website as well. I already talked a little bit about the curriculum, just to say that the courses range in a way that people can kind of design maybe a track even that is focused on working in the arts community, or focused on working in social service organizations, or even in healthcare, in community organizing, and in museums and education. So our students kind of put together a path that allows them to kind of follow the direction or the interests that they have. But it really paves the way to work in the public humanities in many different ways, and even guides you to design your own career. We just did a workshop at a conference recently and brought in 3 alumni who have designed their own careers based on the work that they've been doing, or based on the principles and the skills that they developed by being in the program. A significant part of the curriculum is an opportunity to do an internship. And if you go to our internship page, you'll see that we connect you to thought leaders in the world of cultural sustainability, including the Smithsonian Center for Folklife and Cultural Heritage, and the National Council for Traditional Arts. We have internship opportunities with the Maryland Lynching Memorial Project, which does reconciliation in the area of lynching and racism in Maryland. We have internships with the Sandy Spring Museum in Montgomery County. We're working on the American Folklife Center at the Library of Congress. And I just met today with some folks from the International Rescue Center, IRC, Rescue Committee, sorry, which is a refugee resettlement organization, and they're very interested in internships with our students. So internships can be 1.5 credits, 3 credits, or 4.5 credits, and they can be either as an elective or as a management. So some people do independent study and some people do internships, and we can talk about that in more detail later. Our faculty are trained in the field, and they bring a wealth of practical experiences to their classes. And you'll hear from Sue Eleuterio in just a few minutes about the work that she does and how she brings that into her classroom. So in our classes, you will experience hands-on strategies for applying what you're learning to the world around you. And our faculty guide you through that process. Our faculty are also very committed to helping you find careers. So much of the time, we're also writing letters of support and connecting you. Our Facebook page, we share lots of, our internal Facebook page, we share lots of job opportunities and that sort of thing. So yeah, our faculty are very committed and supportive of our students and trying to make sure that they find the career path that they're really looking for. Our students some students come into the program knowing exactly what they want to do, while others kind of have a vague sense that culture is really important, and they know they want to do some work around culture because it's so much a part of being human. And they're looking for guidance to sort of build a career that allows them to do that culture work. So we have that full range. Our students also range in age from fresh out of undergrad to people who are looking for second careers, people who are who have finished a career and they're coming back and either looking for a second career or they're just looking for personal enrichment or to pursue even more importantly to pursue a personal project they've always wanted to do. Like we have a student in the program right now who's really interested in documenting the migration history of her family from the South up into the North, and is using the program to really understand how to do that effectively. So what I find really fun in the classes is when we have that age range in a class, that kind of intermingled experience is really enriching. The older students really value the idealism and the excitement and the brainstorming of the younger students, and the younger students value the experiences out in the world of the older students. So it makes for just kind of richness in our classes. So let's see, I mentioned earlier, most of our students take about 2.5 years to finish. We offer courses in January, which I'll talk about in a minute. We offer courses throughout the summer, and we offer courses in the fall and the spring. So a student can actually really book through the program pretty quickly if they want to by taking lots of courses in a row, or they can take maybe 1 or 2 classes at a time and take a little bit longer to get through. The final class that you do is a thesis or a capstone. And maybe Sandra will talk a little bit about hers when she was in the program, but this is an opportunity for you to demonstrate your mastery and to really dig into something that you're very passionate about and that you've gotten excited about while you're in the program. And we think of this capstone or thesis actually as a jump start into whatever the next phase is for what you want to do. So it's a low residency program. And what that means is that you come to campus. We're a 287 acre campus that is really beautiful. And you're required to come to, at this point, required to come to one of the residencies, at least one residency, because some of the required courses are only taught in residency. But then the rest of the courses are taught online in very intimate synchronous classes. It's not asynchronous. You're very much in class with each other on Zoom like this. Interacting with each other, engaged with each other. And our faculty, we've been doing online programming now at Goucher for 30 years and in the Max program for almost 15. So our faculty really know how to engage people in those online courses. The residency, though, is we feel like it's really valuable because it's a way to meet face to face with other students, and that those relationships that you build during residency carry you through the online part of the program. And you spend time with faculty, you work on your academic plan. We also go out into the community, so you have an opportunity to see cultural sustainability programming in action around the greater Baltimore area. So we feel like it's a really important part that gives you that hands-on experience while you're still with a cohort and still with faculty. So, okay, I said I'd talk a little bit about careers. So let me move to that slide. So this chart, I think, gives you an idea where our graduates are working. This is a couple of years old, but 54% working full-time and remaining 36% working some level of part-time, which means that 90% of our students have found employment in the kind of work that they are excited to do. The others are people who maybe went to grad school, maybe they went on to a PhD. They're volunteering in their community or they're starting their own business. But you can see over here on the right-hand side, the range of careers that our students are finding for themselves. Several of our students direct folk life programs and arts organizations. Many are working in museums as educators and curators. We have several people working in the travel industry, both as travel writers and as travel providers. Several are cultural leaders in their tribal communities throughout the country, really. California, Wisconsin, Connecticut, Massachusetts, lots of several people working as leaders, cultural leaders in their communities. Director of social service organizations, working in healthcare, and in community outreach and doing research. A few that are working in refugee resettlement organizations, and then project managers, outreach specialists, et cetera. So even some college professors. So just to give you a sense of kind of the kinds of careers. Now I mentioned that a couple of our alums are working as travel providers, and we're working with one of them to develop this field school in Nepal. And we're taking our first group of students. We have 10 or 11 students who are traveling with us to Nepal in January for 2 weeks. While we're there, we're going to be looking at the intersections of climate change and heritage and culture, and sort of the impact of climate change on culture, on culture and on heritage, historic preservation in particular, but then also culture and historic preservation as sort of tools for adapting to climate change and for maybe even battling climate change. So it's going to be really exciting, and we're hoping to do this field school every couple of years. We were really excited to this is interdisciplinary, by the way. So students are coming from environmental sustainability, cultural sustainability, and historic preservation. So it's a really nice mix, and they'll be working together and learning together. We'll be starting out in the capital and Kathmandu. We'll be going down to Chitwan Wildlife Preserve, and then going up to Pokhara and up into the Annapurna mountain range for a little bit of a trekking experience. And in 2 years ago, we did a J-term course in Washington, D.C., where we all went to Washington and spent time. We collaborated with the Smithsonian Institution, and we visited 4 Smithsonian museums, met with their curators, and then we did that. That was the morning, and the afternoon was always back in a meeting room at the Smithsonian. They gave us where we could meet, and we met with, we had more in-depth conversations about the experiences. And it was a really great way to explore the concept of culture, representation of culture, and how cultures can be represented through museums and museum work. So that was really fun. And we're hoping to build a couple more really interesting ideas like that as our January experience. So I know I'm really talking really fast, but that's because I want to get through these so that we can open it up for questions. One slide about fees and scholarships. Tuition's about $45,000. That includes your residency fees and technology fees. Travel and lodging are costs that you bear. However, if you get a FAFSA loan, if these are costs directly related to your education, you can fold that into the loan and use the funding to help cover that. Most of our students use some form of financial aid, and we have a really great support staff at Goucher to help you with that process. And there are payment plans too to pay those back over the course of a semester, but you have to have each semester paid off before you move on to the next semester. We also have some scholarships. They're fairly simple to receive. We just invite you to send us, actually, if you go to our scholarships page, you'll see that we have these 5 named scholarships: Community Scholar, Artist Scholar, Cultural Equity, Cross-Cultural, and Cultural Governance. And you can apply for 1 or 2 of those, and that can also reduce your costs between 10 and 20% overall. So that's the scholarship page. So I wanted to just go through that. I know that was a lot of information. I'm going to give you, here's Taylor's email address and my email address if you want to reach out to either one of us. Like I said, you'll be able to access this this slideshow later, but you can take a picture of that and have our email addresses. We can even put them in the chat for you. And so that's a really, really quick overview. And now I want to invite some comments from 3 additional guests who are here. Sandra Sarrouf, who is the founder and director of the Cultural Creations Collaborative. She's a cultural worker, educator, and business owner working at the intersection of culture, art, and justice, weaving together decades of professional experience in the private and public sectors, and drawing on her lived experience as a Middle Eastern woman who immigrated to the U.S. at a fairly young age. She works to build pathways for meaningful change that support communities across cultures. And she's also the project director of a new initiative called Our Roots. Depending on where you live, you might pronounce those 2 words differently. Living histories of cultural sustainability and belonging. She lives in California's Central Coast, and that's where she does a bulk of her work. Sue Eleuterio is a faculty member in our program. She teaches Organizing Communities, which is an advocacy and activist course. And she has taught cultural partnerships. She teaches our academic writing a writing studio to kind of help you improve your writing. She's a professional folklorist, educator, and consultant to nonprofits. Has conducted lots of field work and done lots of public programs like exhibits, performances, folk arts and education workshops. And she has served as the chair of the board of directors for the Illinois Humanities and former chair of the Chicago-based Crossroads Fund Board. She was on the board of directors. And then Rory Turner is the founder of the MA in Cultural Sustainability. He also teaches in the program. He has taught many of the courses, including the intro class. He's going to be offering a course on culture and spirituality in the spring, and he has taught. He teaches. Oops, he teaches. What happened? Did I lose you? There we go. Screen sharing has stopped. Okay, screen sharing stopped.
Research methods.
Yeah, sorry about that. I hit a button and it went away. But anyway, Rory, and he's also really engaged in the Baltimore Rhythm Festival as one of the founders of that event, which is an amazing opportunity to bring, public programming, community building, program in the Baltimore area to bring people together across multiple disciplines and across multiple communities and art forms around concepts of rhythm and community. So I think we wanted to invite Sandra to, the plan was to have each of them speak for a few minutes and then and respond to questions. What do y'all think? Does that sound good? Sandra, want to hear from you first?
Sure.
Thank
Hello,
you.
hi everyone. Yeah, so it was neat to listen to you present the program, Amy, and I can say a lot of, what Amy shared holds really true to my own experience at Goucher and also the importance of the residency program. I live in California, so it's a big commitment for me to come out twice a year, but I feel like it was a huge part of the success of me being involved in the program. I'm still in touch with my classmates and have collaborated with them on projects as well. And I came to the program a little bit older in life. I was in my early 40s and I was at a crossroads trying to think of like what I wanted to do next. And I was really looking for something interdisciplinary rooted in culture, in community, in art, and in justice. Because my background, I've worked in the nonprofit sector around issues of environmental justice and farm worker education. I did policy work. I coordinated political campaigns. I've always been an activist. I also worked in the private sector. And after my second child, I was able to kind of take a break of working. I had that privilege of taking a break from official, like working for a company, although I was still very active in my community and doing things rooted in culture. And then we know when my youngest daughter started kindergarten, I started to think, okay, well, how am I going to get back into the working world, and feeling a little bit of that ageism and like just needing more education and more support, and me wanting to tie all the different things I was involved in. And I didn't mention I've always been a traditional dancer in Middle Eastern dance. So throughout my life, I've done that a lot and have done a lot of education in schools and the community as a dance teacher, as a performer and choreographer. So I have like these multiple hats I wore. And so as I started looking at different graduate programs, this one just popped up and it felt like, okay, this is the right thing where I can integrate all these different skills I have and the work I've done to really work in that field of culture and my own lived experience, right? As an immigrant, I've always been really passionate around the varied ways we participate in culture, how immigrant communities sustain their own cultural practices, sustain their norms, that integration, that adaptation into new communities. So this just felt like, okay, maybe this is somewhere where I can tie all this in. I was one of those vague students. I didn't really know like what I wanted to do or how it was going to pan out. But I had great coaching and there were great classes, and it just helped me kind of find my path. I also live in a small town. And so part of my challenge was, how am I going to do this in a small town that is diverse, yet its diversity is siloed? Um, and so with my degree, when you had the list of the different careers, so I founded Cultural Creations Collaborative, and that is a lot of consulting, training, and facilitation. I work a lot with schools in how to create spaces of belonging by really through an asset-based lens. How are we bringing that informal knowledge into the classroom? How are we supporting students' lived experiences? How are we addressing the achievement gap through a lens of race and culture and ethnicity? Because, they've been trying to address the achievement gap for 30 years and it hasn't been working. So looking at these gaps through a lens of culture and cultural experiences. So that's kind of the independent, how I've built up that Cultural Creations Collaborative to do that. What else? And then the project you're talking about, Our Roots, Our Routes. Yeah, we struggled with the spelling of routes because it could be our roots, or we say our roots, our routes. And that's been a labor of love with some other colleagues in really developing a digital archive of our Indigenous, immigrant, and ethnic communities' living histories here on the Central Coast. Being in a small town, the history of our area has been through this white dominant lens. So we're hoping to fill the gaps by working with these siloed communities in capturing their living histories, their oral histories, and cultural practices. And we just recently launched the website. So that's been really exciting. And a lot of that work is also very grounded in the studies and classes I took through Goucher and one of our principles is, right, how are we supporting communities on their own terms, right? So when we work with the communities, it's really about building those relationships and supporting them on their own terms and how they want to have their histories and stories and cultural practices documented and shared through this archive. What else do you want? Oh, why does cultural sustainability matter to me? I think it's, and I made this digital story, which is really cool, that I did through Goucher with the support, which has also helped to share why I do the work I do with organizations and schools and how that connects and why cultural sustainability matters. And I just really feel like it's the building block of inclusion and equity work, because how can we truly shift systems and policies and practices to support diverse communities if we're not offering value, validation, visibility, and true systemic change in supporting cultural practices in its diverse forms? And so I just feel like it's really like a fundamental principle in any cross-cultural DEI work that happens in communities. I don't know. What else? Is that enough? Anything else I should be sharing? I graduated in 2018. It's been pathways, finding my way, but that's how I've been applying.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's great. I think you're one of the examples of somebody that is, has found a passion and is using the what you've learned in the program to kind of create that pathway for yourself, which is really very cool. I think it's really impressive.
And also with the MA, I teach now at Cal Poly in the theater and
yeah.
dance department. So
Oh, right. I meant to say that in your bio.
yeah, that's okay. I mean, and when you're faculty at a system, it gives you some kind of like hierarchy and credence, which is great, right? And the MA, the Max program allowed me that. But what I also love about the Max program is it's not steeped in academia like stuffiness. I feel like, which I was really intimidated by when I was looking for graduate programs and even being at a university, like having to navigate through that level. While it's still very academic and I was challenged and I had to think hard and do a lot of research, there's a level, I think, Rory, you said, of humanness to it and connection and reality of why does this even matter in the work we're doing. So I try to bring that into my classrooms when I teach as well.
Yeah, that's
Students.
great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So Sue, why don't we invite you to share some thoughts as well? Or does anybody have a question? Actually, maybe before we do that, anybody have a question for Sandra before we move on to Sue? No? No questions? Okay. Sue.
Well, so this is one of the many things I love about Max is I'm always learning new things because we just had a big windstorm and all our power went off and the lights are back on, but the internet's down, but I managed to get on the phone. So so there we are with climate impacts. So just briefly to talk about cultural sustainability, I think it creates a sense of belonging, as Sandra has shown so beautifully, and helps reinforce a sense of identity for people in a changing world, whether it's a specific cultural tradition and practice. Like for instance, I still make the Portuguese sweetbread and kale soup that my grandmother and aunt taught me, and it connects me to them and my dad's heritage. It also it includes local, regional, and other place-based ways of heritage and belonging. And I think it matters because it helps with peace building, social justice, and connections between and among people, whether it's local, regional, national, or international. I try to apply the principles of cultural sustainability through a variety of ways. I do some mentoring. I have a colleague and friend who founded the Bronzeville Historical Society on the south side of Chicago. She was a postal worker who got interested in local history and created her own museum. And she and I just collaborated on a project to do strategic planning with the first African-American settlement in southern Indiana, which is a Black-led historic museum and site. Through board work, as Amy said, I'm a former board member of the Illinois Humanities, but I'm also still on the board of the Southern Ohio Folklife Organization, which documents and shares Latinx culture and place-based culture in Southern Ohio. And I'm on the board of Kind Folk, which provides after-school education by traditional artists in Southern Indiana and Northern Kentucky. I'm also a member of the Midwest Folklorist and Culture Workers. And if anybody on the call is from Midwest, please join us. We have a community of practice. My favorite aspects of the MAX program is that we are able to involve working adults from a variety of places and experiences, as Sandra has so beautifully shared with you. The program is flexible and supportive, and the relationships that we create continue long after graduation. And as an educator, I learn from my students every time I teach. So I'll end with advice, which is to try things even if you're not sure. Don't be afraid to ask questions and look for things that resonate with you, and always feel free to ask. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Sue. Yeah, good words of advice. So Rory, do you want to offer a couple of thoughts as the founder of the program? You always so beautifully articulate its value.
Well, it comes and goes, but thank you, Amy, and thanks for you all being here. As Amy mentioned, I helped start this program, but like many things, most things that really matter, it was not just me, it was the work of a number of people that came together in a sort of pulling some strands together. But I think one thing I'd like to say is we live in a world where often I think we experience ourselves being turned into objects or data. We're understood as what we consume, what we how what we produce in terms of our work. But when one comes to know the world through a cultural lens, I feel like we can shift that a little bit and see that we are in fact the creators of the reality that we participate in, and sometimes we're creators that are enabled, and sometimes we're creators that are suppressed. With the traditions that have been passed on to us, we have the opportunity to participate in something larger. But it's not just those things. It's not just the old, venerable traditions that are so important. But when I try to define cultural sustainability, I often end up saying it's about how we can sustain the things that sustain us, sustain the culture that sustains us. And I think of that more than just as us human beings, but also in relationship to the planet. The notion of sustainability is a notion that, as we know, there's a global climate forum happening now. We have created a world in which we have reached limits, and in which there has been profound social dislocation and fragmentation, leading to things like mental health crises, leading to things like war and violence. As a folklorist, which I was trained in at Indiana University, like Sultana, who's not on the call anymore, but I went there because I found a love of the kind of celebratory, often wise, funny, meaningful ways that people within communities have created forms of expression that become part of a fabric of life, and so if we think about that notion of culture as a kind of enabling, sustaining fabric, what do we do with it? Well, that became a question in my own work at the Maryland State Arts Council, actually, of seeing that folklorists could move beyond conventional modes of arts administration and cultural management, to really get at what Sandra talked about, this lived experience. How do we really come to know people in the kind of deep ways that are part of our own lives, but to begin from that in terms of the work that we do. So we emphasize research and partnerships as that. We are about making friends and having ethical relationships, and we're also about standing with the people that we work with, either parts of our own community or parts of communities that we value and treasure, and working resourcefully to make a difference in those worlds, to make a difference for social justice, to make a difference for well-being. One of the things that I think is a hallmark of our program is we have a lot of different students with different interests, but there's a kind of toolkit of thinking, of writing and communicating, of skills that one might need in this kind of work, everything from how to write grants to how to put together exhibits, to how to deal with financial matters. That's part of what we do. So we ask you to sort of think theoretically in an unbounded way, to explore different ways of looking at the world, to connect deeply with people and develop meaningful, genuine relationships with them, and from that vantage point to then be creative in developing action in the world, projects or other kinds of, it could be research, it could be a book, it could be a digital media, it could be a educational program, anything like that. Hold on just 1 second. So, yeah, I'll leave it at that for now. Just to say just a couple other things very quickly. You will learn skills, you will learn tools in research, in program design. You will, we are profoundly interdisciplinary. Well, you know, readings come from a whole range of different sources, anthropology, folklore, policy, planning, etc., community arts work, and people have put this to use in many different ways, and I think we also have created a community of people that have been involved with this program, and we've had an impact in the world. Cultural sustainability was a very kind of odd, you know, not a well-known term. Now it's being used as the framework for large grant programs, for thinking about travel, and many other things. So it's an opportunity to be part of that conversation, to shape what cultural sustainability means, these two important words that really characterize the issues of our time. And I could talk more about that, but I won't. Thank you. I think that's basically it for me. I know that Amy has
Thanks.
to go.
Thanks so much. Yeah. Do you all have questions?
I have questions of these fine people, and I'd love to hear a little bit about what are the things that they're interested in. What, you know, not just what drew you here, but are there things that you're passionate about or really interested about wanting to develop? And I ask that because that is kind of what makes this program tick, is that we're here to be your mentors, your consultancy team in developing the things that might matter to you. So I don't know if the people want to, I'm not going to force you to do this, but if there's anything you'd like to share about, you know, what are your interests, and that'll help us understand how we can support and help you through this program.
Is it okay if I talk?
Yeah, hi, Roberta.
Hi. So,
I'm gonna step away because I have tickets to see
Yeah.
Anthony Fauci, and he's right down the hall, and I'm gonna go do that right now before they close the doors. So it was great for you. Thank you so much for coming, Nicole. I'm glad that you were able to come. And Rosemary, wonderful to see you. And Roberta, so thank you all. And
Thank you so much.
Tasha and Virgil, I hope I'll hear from all of you.
See you,
Bye-bye.
Amy. So Roberta, yeah, tell us what
yeah, my name is Roberta. I'm a retired school teacher.
okay.
I've taught for 45 years. I've been retired for 3 years. And in that 3-year period, I continue to teach on a very part-time basis as a substitute, but mainly I end up in these little like jobs that focus on reading skills. But I guess I just wonder if there's a place like me in your program, because I still have this huge desire to continue making a difference in communities. I taught for many years in the Baltimore area. Currently, I've been living in the Cleveland area, but I come back and forth a lot to Baltimore. I have friends still there and family in Silver Spring. And this program caught my eye. I think it came up somehow. I think it came up on my Facebook scroll for some reason. I think because years ago I've taken a class at Goucher. And so, you know, I guess the program just I was very drawn to it. But on the other hand, I'm thinking, would there be a place for someone like me? Because all that you said this evening, I could really relate to. And just my ethnic background alone, I think draws me to this program. And I'm not sure if there would be a place for me, but I think I'm willing to explore that somehow, even if it meant, making a trip to Baltimore or talking with someone one-on-one online. So that's who I am. I mean, I taught all those years because I loved teaching and I loved working with children. And I love working with children from different cultures and backgrounds and have a history of teaching in the Baltimore area. So that's who I am, if that makes any sense.
It absolutely makes sense. And I mean, we've had a significant numbers of our students have been people in retired people or people who are a little older. And you have, and what's wonderful is the kind of interactions. We also have people fresh out of college and anywhere in between. But and also, as an educator, you have a unique perspective. We've had a number of teachers that have done this program and developed, learning modules. It would be a chance to kind of really think about, this next step in your life.
Yes.
So I bet Amy would love to have a nice sit down with you or
Okay.
a Zoom chat. And I'd be
Okay.
happy to do that too. But reach out to Amy.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Uh, hey Nicole.
Hey,
Nicole
how
and I
are
have been
you?
playing like message tag.
Yes,
Talk
yeah.
at some point, but yeah. So tell us about what gets you pumped about.
Yeah. So I'm not retired, but I'm a former
Right.
teacher. I taught for about a decade.
Okay.
And I taught public high school. And I actually taught English, but I also taught a class called Africa and its Diaspora.
Yeah.
And as I look throughout my life, I discovered the field of folklore in May.
Yeah.
And as I look throughout my life, even teaching the class called Africa and its Diaspora, I won't monopolize the conversation and tell you the thread. I'll save it for my personal statement. But I started to realize that, oh, wait, I've been doing culture work already. And I've been doing it for years in varying capacities. And, I have What Folklorists Do by Timothy Lloyd. And I've been reading that. And I'm like, I've really, not to say that I know everything about the discipline, I have a lot more to learn. But I was like, I've been doing this informally in so many capacities. And I was home on sick leave in May. And one of the things I wanted to do with my time, I said, I want to watch some Aborigines. Like I want to watch some videos. And that is literally like what I do on my free time. And as I was watching this video, I said, Nicole, like, because I'm, thinking about a career change anyway. And I said, Nicole, you're homesick. And what you decide to like Google on YouTube, you just wanted to watch some Aboriginal people talk. And I said, Nicole, you have to do something about this inner yearning. And so I asked ChatGPT, like, here's my background. I like this. What are the titles? And so I just started poking around, and I'm in Florida. And I looked at the Florida cultural site, which I've been on 1,000 times, and it said blah, 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 state folklorist. And I said, wait, states have folklorists? But folklore, I used to teach English. I'm like, folklore, what is this? Then I did this deep dive. I think I joined AFS the same night, American Folklore Society. And long story short, through poking around, I'm a Jamaican Maroon, which we're an indigenous ethnic group in Jamaica. And my mom always told me about this professor and his colleague named Dr. Kenneth Bilby that used to live amongst them. My grandfather was the one who gave him permission to be in the village and
Wow.
everything. So I reached out to Dr. Bilby and told him that about my newfound passion, and did not know that my alarm is going off. 1 second. Okay. Did not know that my grandfather was actually at the Smithsonian Folkslife Festival in '92, and all of that. Dr. Bilby sent me pictures. So in it at a risk of sounding esoteric or whatever, it feels like this field has called me before I was born because they were in Jamaica before I was here. And it just so happens that like my cousin in England has worked for the Royal Geographical Society. I have another cousin doing cultural work in Jamaica. So like it's just this weird cosmic God thing. And I don't really know what I'm going to do next in terms of pursuing it, but I'm exploring. So that's
Great.
why I'm here.
Great. Oh, wonderful to hear. And I always love to just pick up on threads, but because of time, I think maybe, and we'll keep trying to have the conversation. But that's really cool. And yeah, the Jamaican Maroons did the really one of the best strategies for dealing with oppression, which was to just get the heck out of there. You know? Anyway, anybody else want to share a little bit about their interests and kind of what brings them here?
Virgil has some comments in the chat.
Yeah.
We should.
Virgil, are you a teacher now in Anne Arundel?
I think her microphone is off.
Yeah.
Oh, Virgil's microphone isn't working.
Oh, okay. No
Sorry.
worries. No worries. I mean, it does sound like, I know that our program is part of a larger set of graduate programs at Goucher, and in the education programs, there's a number of these really good cooperative agreements. It may be possible that there's ways that you could sort of hybridize. I don't know that. I'm not in the kind of administrative role, but maybe Taylor or Amy could give you some further advice about that.
But we've had several students who did dual degrees, Virgil, just so you know. A number of students, and we've had MAT students take some of our classes. So there's a bunch of different ways to do it. So I would definitely recommend talking to Amy, but feel free to let Taylor know if you want to speak to any of us too, because we're always glad to talk further.
Ooh, and I want to call you Amelia Rosemary, just because I see it on your screen, but I gather just that maybe you and Amy have had some conversations.
Yeah, my daughter's Amelia sabotaged the Zoom. So her name is on it instead of mine. I know Amy from years and years ago with the Bottle Works, where I dealt with people who really understood and wanted to know more about their culture and the ethnicity. I'm now the founding member of a gallery which is downtown in a very, very impoverished a city that has really hit the skids because of employment, the floods, everything else. So you talk about cultural sustainability. First, you have to get your arms around the culture before you can figure out. I think they don't have a lot of pride. They just don't know who they are. They're just like, we do a lot of participatory things, and that seems to awaken people to the arts, but it's a struggle.
Yeah. Yeah, and those are some of the kinds of things that we really dig into in classes like cultural partnership,
Right.
and
Yeah.
also to some extent in research methods. But it's like, how do you create a different kind of relationship? And then also, as we think about culture, one of the kind of frameworks that I like to think about is gifts. That there's a circulation of between people of gifts that often are sort of have they transcend our own individual lives. They're part of
Yeah.
of larger energy, I suppose you could say. But look for the gifts. Even in situations where people have been kind of decimated or displaced.
But I think storytelling has helped us to a degree, but well, and we've had some storytelling grants, but they, it seemed like they came to fruition just as the pandemic set in, and that was a challenge too. But I think we were able through a grant to buy our building. And one of the rooms when we raise money for the renovations is going to be storytelling. And I think that that will empower people. We're also working with a group where it's like a refuge place where people who are recovering go, but it's really very civilized and so forth, and getting them interested in create a mosaic. You know, we're trying what we can.
That sounds really cool. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I don't know if Nasha would like to share a little bit about why you're here.
Pardon me, I didn't hear that.
Oh, I was just I'm worrying about time for you all. We're at
Yes,
7,
yes,
so
we are over the time, and I wasn't going to speak up, but
no, I'd love to talk. I'd love to talk more about
yes,
this.
I would like to. You know, if your email address is around someplace, I will communicate. How's that?
Oh, sounds good. Sounds great.
All right, great.
Does Nasha, I don't know if you're still listening on the call, but if you want to share a little bit about what brings you here, that would be wonderful. I'm so curious, always so curious about people. Maybe not. That's okay. Well, Taylor, do you wanna wrap things up, or Sue, do you have anything you'd like to share? In final thoughts.
I just typed Rory's email in the chat.
Yeah.
All of our emails of faculty is just our name. So mine is sue.eleuterio@goucher.edu. Rory is rory.turner@goucher.edu, just for clarification for that. So feel free to reach out to any of us. And yeah, as I said in my little chat, I mean, the most important thing is please ask questions. Please, of course, let us know what you're interested in. Along the lines of, I'll just say real quickly with storytelling, I teach organizing and advocacy for cultural communities. And a big piece of that is identifying your own story, identifying the story of us, who you're a part of, and then the story of now, what compels you to take action. So we infuse that concept of storytelling really pretty much through all of our courses. So I'll just add that.
But we are so, so pleased to have had you all join us for learning more about our Cultural Sustainability Masters. I will be sending out an email following this. It will have the recording, the slideshow, as well as the emails of our fabulous presenters and Amy as well. Amy also has a office hours link, so it will link specifically to times where you can meet with her one-on-one to ask more questions, delve into specific passion projects, specific questions, stuff that you may not have felt comfortable sharing or didn't have the time to on this webinar. So feel free to sign up for a slot with her or with myself. Both of our meeting links will be added to that email. So we look forward to hearing from you. And if you have any questions about the application process, please do not hesitate to reach out. I'm more than happy to take some time just to chat about it with you. But I want to thank all of our lovely presenters for coming to share more about their experience with the MA in Cultural Sustainability, and all of you for taking time to come learn more.
Thank you.
I hope you all have a great
Taylor.
rest of your evening.
All right, get in
Bye.
touch.
Thank you.
Let's talk. All right, take care. We'll figure this out, Nicole.